Hi, my name's Joshua Michael Piper, and I love movies. More specifically, I love how movies make me feel a wider range of emotions like tension, dread, wonder, inspiration. I love seeing how these characters evolve through their story arc in the most subtle or drastic ways. I get so much satisfaction seeing these characters overcome great obstacles to achieve their goals, or even the goals themselves change into something completely unexpected. And I cannot express the joy I feel when a movie foreshadows a character-defining moment, then to see that moment pay off in the most epic way. I love it all. But, as with anything in life, with great love comes great heartache. Foreshadowing that leads to underwhelming moments or nothing at all. Heroes with generic objectives that make them seem shallow or one-dimensional. The story arc of these characters being completely non-existent. Or even worse, the characters themselves having little to no likable qualities. I've watched movies with surface-level plots so basic that they become highly predictable and dull. And when it comes to movies, there's no greater sin than being boring. Now that being said, entertainment is subjective. The director's true vision and message could be something that I overlook entirely. The thoughts and feelings I have toward a film could be completely different than what you all experience. And if any of you got entertainment from these movies that I didn't, then your experience is just as valid as my own. Because that's what it's all about. Entertainment. So let it be known that it is not my intention to diminish the audience's experience, nor the hard work done by the cast, crew, and filmmakers of these projects. I only wish to share my opinions. They're not right, they're not wrong, they're just my perspective. Except for Batman vs. Superman. That fucking movie's wrong, and here's why. Hey everybody. So, I originally filmed the intro for the video, and it took me a little longer to edit the actual review of Batman vs. Superman, so that explains the difference in appearance and the posters missing. But thank you for sticking with me. Now, I hate this movie with a passion, and I mean really hate it. I can't even respect people who defend this movie. My own brother told me the movie isn't that bad. I haven't spoken to him in months. We live in the same apartment. Shut the fuck up! Movie's not that bad. Not gonna edit. Now, I know shitting on this movie is low-hanging fruit, and plenty of people have picked this corpse apart, from the terrible plot to the cringy climax. But I have my own unique outlook on this movie. Don't worry, I still think it sucks. But I just wanted to express how I think the movie could have been done, dare I say it, better. I am an inspiring screenwriter, and I've studied story structure and have followed these characters since the animated days. So I'd love to give my perspective on a different version of this movie and how it could have been done. But in order to do that, we're going to need to go back to when the franchise actually started. That's right, Man of Steel. There's a lot wrong with this movie as well. But it actually does get a few things right. For the purpose of this video, I'm only going to focus on the climax of the movie. So, Superman and Zod are fighting all across Metropolis. Zod literally says to Superman,
"One way this ends, Cal. Either you die, or I do."
Boy, really subtle. But let's keep going. Superman finally gets the upper hand on Zod. That's when he starts to use his laser eyes. He's about to burn this family alive, and Superman is begging him to stop. But he won't. He will keep killing people until they are all dead, or until Superman finally... Now, what happens next is very telling, and could have set up the next movie perfectly. Superman kneels down, shocked by what he just had to do. and he snaps. Okay, the word perfectly might be a stretch, but this does tell us that Superman was traumatized. He's always tried to save anyone he could, but never at the cost of someone else's life. Now, he had to kill another person just to save humanity, and it broke him. Of course, you could try to argue that the scream was cheesy, and that Superman isn't as susceptible to trauma like we are. But there actually are plenty of iterations where Superman deals with grief, rage, insanity. So it's not too far-fetched to think that this moment just was too much for him to bear. Yet they seem to just gloss over this in the next movie. I say let that be the focal point. His fear of taking another life and avoiding that risk at all costs. That in itself has real-world consequences. Think about it. That fear of going to those lengths to protect people could hinder him from actually engaging in violent activities like hostage situations or terrorist attacks. And you wouldn't even have to change that much about the original movie. You can keep all the scenes with Superman saving everyone from natural disasters. Saves some people from a flood, takes care of a few astronauts before they blow up, puts out a forest fire here or there, yada yada yada. The only thing you would really need to change is that opening scene with Lois Lane. She gets taken hostage by a terrorist during an interview. Superman has to fly in to save her. She lifts her hands off the terrorist to signal, "Go ahead and kill this guy." But Superman hesitates. She looks at him perplexed. Superman then tries to negotiate with the terrorist, but he won't listen. Lois gets the upper hand on the terrorist while he's off guard. That right there changes so much. First of all, you give Lois Lane a lot more to do. She's not just some Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter. She's a badass and a military brat, so it makes sense for the character. Give her a lot more to do than being a walking life alert. Oh, this bitch! And two, this would show what's holding Superman back. His fear of taking another life. That fear would keep him from being the true protector we need against any threats our planet faces in the future. That'd be a perfect way to establish character development that Superman needs throughout the movie. That he can't choose what kind of protector he needs to be. Superman choosing to avoid conflicts would cause a huge outcry from people who have been victims of violent actions, asking why Superman wasn't there to save their child from a shooting or stop a terrorist attack from happening. There's more danger out there than forest fires and tsunamis, and that would have great internal conflict for him to have to face. Wanting to answer the prayers of people in these violent situations, but choosing to avoid them because he doesn't want to have to take a life. You can even keep the heart-to-heart scenes with Lois and Martha, explaining to him that Zod's death isn't on him, that he did the best he could. They can be there to encourage Superman to intervene in these catastrophes, whether they're violent or natural. You can even keep the Congress meeting scenes. They could be there to discuss whether Superman should have any type of laws regulating him from intervening in these violent actions. I mean, this would be great for Superman's conflict. We've all been in that situation where we felt like we needed to do something and intervene, but too afraid of the consequences that follow along with it. So you see, there's so many different ways you could play on this. But keeping the main focus of Superman's trauma and hesitation of having to go to those lengths again. And Batman would be the perfect person to address this. When it comes to a moral stance on never taking a life, every nerd thinks of Batman.
I will not kill.
Which brings me to my next point. You do not write Superman or Batman to kill. Ever! And there's a lot of reasons why this makes sense, but let's focus on Batman for starters. We all know his backstory. Son of billionaires, gunned down in an alley, and then he vows to fight injustice. He trains himself to his physical and mental peak. He then learns to become a symbol that strikes fear into the heart of criminals and protects Gotham from its darkest days. Now, part of that vow is to never kill. And for his character, It makes perfect sense for many reasons. First, let's look at the events that started Bruce on his journey. He witnessed a man so desperate to get what he wants that he was willing to take a life to get it. 2 lives, actually. So if Batman decides that what he really wants is crime to stop in Gotham, and he's willing to bury criminals in order to do it, then he's pretty much inflicting the same trauma on family members and friends of the villains he fights. I know, it's silly to think about the social circles and family members of generic henchmen and bad guys, but from Batman's perspective, there would be no difference. And he wouldn't be much better than the criminals he's sworn to fight against. But he wants to be better than that. He wants to live up to a higher standard. I can go on all day, but this says it best.
I'm no executioner.
Your compassion is a weakness your enemies will not share.
That's why it's so important. It separates us from them.
Oh, Christopher Nolan, you beautiful son of a bitch. I could not have said that better myself. Batman's vow is about fighting criminality, and it stems from witnessing someone's lack of compassion. So he chooses to fight injustice in a way that keeps that compassion within him by never taking a life. And this would also help his image with the police. I mean, think about it. He's a guy dressing up as a bat or a creature and going around pummeling criminals into a pulp. They wouldn't want to associate with the guy like that. But when they realize he has a strong moral stance on never taking a life, they begin to trust him, even work alongside him. And finally, keeping the rule of no killing for Batman makes him a more compelling character. In a world where Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, all these demigods with these remarkable abilities and amazing powers, if they have a battle and someone ends up dead, the first thing you're going to say is, actually, you might say, dude, you're faster than a speeding bullet. Did you really have to turn that terrorist into tomato chunks? They didn't have to die, did they? But Batman, someone who is trained, resourceful, and tactical, but we still know is just a man. If he has a fight with someone and they end up dead, you'd give him a pass. You would say, he's just a man. There's only so much he can do. Yet the fact that he fights tooth and nail to protect Gotham and make sure that it doesn't result in taking a life speaks volumes about his nobility. How do you not respect that? Now, I already know about the versions of Batman that used Uzis and grenades and killed criminals. First off, they were not that popular. Second of all, they didn't last that long. Now, as far as Superman, the reason he shouldn't kill is very simple. Superman willing to completely flatten a terrorist means that Batman has no chance of winning this fight. Superman has many abilities that would kill anyone in an instant. Look, Batman is my favorite superhero, and he's the only man that I'll admit that I love. But even I can admit that a Superman that kills is unbeatable. And they tried to write a believable story where Superman and Batman have this epic fight, but no one ends up dead. And it failed in my eyes. Superman's mom gets abducted by Lex Luthor, and Lex tells Superman to bring the head of the Bat. Now, he has no problem finding Lois Lane and saving her from danger, even though he just flew from the fucking Arctic. But I guess he doesn't want to look like a mama's boy. Okay, let's overlook that and say that there's no chance he could have found Martha in time. Okay. Then you would have explained all this to Batman! And he tried, but he gave some half-assed attempt. Like, bro, you literally spent more time explaining this to Lois, and she had no dog in the fight. Can't you try again? Dumbass! But even if you want to ignore all of that, and believe that Lex hid Martha so well that Superman couldn't find her, and that Batman was never going to listen to reason, then he would have killed Batman in 5 fucking seconds! I mean, look at how many times he could have done it!
Fatality. 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 Fatality.
See? These two characters willing to kill makes the story less believable. Now, Zack Snyder did address this by saying that if you believe our country got where it was without doing some shady shit, then you need to grow the fuck up. Which is a fair point. I didn't take that into account. It's a fair point. Except, it's a fucking movie! We're not talking about the real world. We are talking about story structure and character development. And the character traits like being willing to kill need to make sense for the backstory of that character. And I'm not against the hero that kills. Take the Punisher, for example. He is a Marine, militaristic. He's already had to live through horrific traumas. When he's done serving, his family is taken from him in a horrific way. Now, if someone wrote Punisher to have a role that he would never take a life, I wouldn't buy it. Because it doesn't make sense for the backstory. He's already had to take lives in war. So, of course, after something so traumatic like his whole family being brutally murdered, he would want to put criminals in the ground, which is why it works. Writing in that Superman and Batman do not wish to kill anyone makes their conflict more believable. And if they kept in that Superman was fearful of taking another life, then that could mean that he's projecting his own insecurities on other people, particularly Batman. I mean, the Dark Knight is literally branding criminals. Not too much of a stretch to think that he might actually kill someone in his crusade. So Superman will want to confront Batman about his methods and how far he's willing to go to try to serve justice. Batman, however, sees Superman as holding back, that he's not living up to the true potential of a hero. And I consider that to be the best conflict between these two characters. The fight between Superman and Batman should be less physical and more philosophical. Now, I'm not saying that these two need to sit on debate team and address the finer points of excessive force and vigilantism. You can have conflict without it being a slugfest, and it doesn't have to be boring either. Batman and Superman want the same thing, to do what's right for their communities. They just operate in different methods. Superman wants to be a symbol of hope. He wants to be the light that shines on people's darkest days. Batman operates in the shadows. He believes that if you want to invoke true change, you need to fight off corruption at its source, in the darkness. Both of them are right. They're just taking their viewpoints to the extreme. And there's your conflict. Superman can be so hindered by the fear of taking another life that he neglects the downfall of society due to criminal activity. But Batman is too hard in his crusade that he forgets that being in the dark too long eats away at that which makes you human, your compassion. So I say take these two viewpoints and really show the friction that it would cause these two characters. Superman acting more like FEMA, helping with natural disasters, and Batman operating like SEAL Team 6, going in head first and really engaging with criminals in a very brutal way. I mean just wrecking bitches. Look at that shit! Yeah! That really was the best part of the movie. But Batman's obsession with completely eliminating crime is getting him dangerously closer to crossing that line. And Superman doesn't want to see that happen to anyone else. Superman witnesses how Batman is handling criminals in Gotham, and he wants to stop him before someone actually ends up dead. But Batman sees Superman as not doing enough in the world to make real change. And he could be the one person to tell Superman the truth. That Superman wasn't wrong for killing Zod. He was wrong for thinking that there's no other way. Superman doesn't want to hear that he didn't necessarily have to kill Zod, but it's the truth. There's so many other different things you could have done. I mean, Superman didn't see another option, but that doesn't mean there wasn't one. Why don't you just fly him out of there? You're strong enough to snap his neck. Can't you just fly him away? Why aren't you telling the family to move to the left? To the left! There's not even that much debris. Tell him to move to the fucking left and get out of there! Anyway, Superman's fear of taking another life causes him to confront Batman on his methods. He sees Batman's brutality and how the citizens of Gotham are terrified to even go out at night. Batman confronts Superman on his fear of taking another life. That you shouldn't let that hold you back. You can find another way. There's so many different ways you can portray this in the film to make it entertaining. You can have Lex Luthor develop a unique version of Scarecrow's fear toxin infused with kryptonite to push Superman over the edge. And that fear can lead Superman into thinking that Batman is going to go too far. Then, of course, Superman overcomes those fears with Batman's help. You can have Bruce read one of Clark's articles on how the citizens of Gotham are terrorized by Batman, and that could make him see that he can be more than just a symbol of fear, that he can bring hope to his community. Yeah, it sounds a little sappy when you say it out loud, but it's certainly better than this! Yeah, we want to see some cool fight scenes, but ultimately, we really want to see these two characters learn from each other, and ultimately come together to face a greater threat. We also want to see these two characters cross paths, so they can grow into better heroes in their own right. Since the point of Man of Steel is about choosing your own destiny, then the sequel should have been about accepting all that comes with that destiny. And the sequel could have been about them accepting that there's more to being a hero than what you believe. Making real change isn't about saving cats from trees or being a one-man reign of terror. It's about being the symbol that people need in the moment. And ultimately, they would understand that their paths are different, but both lead to the same goal. A better world for all of us.